Orellana thought only about how he might get them all out of this death trap alive. Getting here had nearly killed them. For months they had hacked their way through the dense Andean forests, the forbidding snow-capped Antisana volcano erupting in the distance, rumbling the earth with great quakes and sending shock waves of fear through the exhausted men as the roofs of the abandoned Indian huts they took shelter in collapsed upon them. On their descent from the mountains, rain slashed the hillsides in horrific torrents, sending the men scurrying to higher ground to escape flash floods and engorging the streams so that the conquistadors were forced to cut timber and construct bridges in order to continue forward. The Spaniards suffered attacks by small bands of Indians at the headwaters of the upper Coca and Napo rivers, and all of their native slaves, porters, and guides either died on the freezing mountain passes or fled during the long nights. The conquistadors had eaten nearly all of the 200 horses they had brought with them, abandoning others in the dense and roadless forests, which proved impassable for the large animals. Eaten, too, were all of the savage mastiffs and wolfhounds trained to terrorize native populations or to take part in battle. Francisco Orellana, his despondent captain Gonzalo Pizarro, and their few hundred mercenary soldiers were lost in an unknown wilderness, slowly starving to death with scant hope for survival. Progress along the river's dank and decaying shoreline was disastrous. Forlorn, they came to understand that somehow the river must be their only hope for salvation. So they built a boat, salvaging iron from the shoes of slain horses to fabricate nails, caulking the craft with cotton ripped from their own garments and blankets, constructing cordage from tree vines. Pizarro, glowering and brooding and violent, tortured some captured Indians for information, learning, between their screams, that perhaps 2 days' travel downriver was a prosperous village boasting large manioc plantations, enough to keep the men alive, at least for a time. Francisco Orellana watched the slow and languid movement of the murky river. The waterway appeared hostile and forbidding and alien to him, but he knew what he must do. In this open boat, dubbed the San Pedro, he would navigate downstream in search of food. Orellana, his lips cracked and bleeding, his face blistered from the unremitting equatorial furnace, took Captain Pizarro aside and presented him with his idea. Orellana, second in command, and 57 of his compatriots would depart the next morning, boarding the San Pedro and 22 stolen native dugout canoes and voyaging downstream to find the plantations. Pizarro, despondent and without a better idea, agreed. Orellana should embark at dawn. As the Christmas sunset poured long skeins of blood-red light over the upper reaches of the Amazon basin, and the flooded Várzea forests and swamps reverberated with the eerie twilight cheers and keening of strange animals, both Francisco Orellana and his captain Gonzalo Pizarro gazed at the endless wash of the river. Neither man found it necessary to voice what they both knew, that their only hope of survival lay with Orellana and the fragile wooden craft that would carry him and his small band down the unknown reaches of the twisting, massive waterway. Chapter 1. A Confluence of Conquistadors. The vast and rugged lands of Extremadura, Francisco Orellana's homeland in the Kingdom of Castile, produced hard and unyielding men who learned the arts of warfare as boys, and who by their early teens could ride their Iberian mounts with panache and wield their Toledo swords with deadly efficiency. Theirs was a temperament forged by 800 years of conflict with the invading Moors. To this day, Extremadura is the least populated province in all of Spain, a haunting and landlocked place where seemingly endless tracts of rocky pasture land and burned-out bunch grass are punctuated by scrubby stands of deep green encina oak. On elevated promontories, the only respite from the terminal vistas, perch the ruins of castles and ramparts and their crumbling keeps, and the granite